want everybody to find their solution, but it's up to you. And the first part of that journey is taking responsibility for it, taking responsibility for your own life and everything that has gone wacko in your life. You probably have something that you need to take responsibility for in making it so.
Welcome, everyone, and today is going to be so good. We are here on the Relaunch Podcast, and I've got someone that I've been following for years and years, and I've admired her so much because of her ability to have successful relaunches. Even when she just, it's like that song, you get knocked down, you get up again. This woman has been able to, and not only be able to survive, thrive, but really impact not only our generation, but the generations that are coming after her. And that just says so much. Mariel Hemmingway is considered an expert in health from both mental and physical. She's a longtime advocate of, we're going to love this, everyone, personal power. And you know how I feel about that. She works in life balance, authenticity, joy, and finding peace of mind through a devoted practice of healthy living. And joy, peace of mind. These are all part of my mantras too. So she's both a committed teacher and student, right? Does it ever actually end? I don't think so. In 2014, Mariel co-executive produced the Emmy-nominated Running from Crazy, which I just had a chance to re-watch. And in that, she really, it premiered in the Sundance Film Festival. It documents her boundless advocacy for mental health awareness, the dignity and rights of people of all circumstances and ability, and her commitment. This is so important for connecting those of like mind and heart. Haha, y'all seeing this? Head, heart, higher self, 3HQ. She is living this. She is living this. In 2015, in alignment with National Mental Health Awareness Month, Regan Arts Publishing released 2 new books, including her memoir, Out Came the Sun, and a young adult targeted diary from Project about the journey from surviving to thriving, entitled Invisible Girl. So today she is a keynote speaker. She is all over. She is putting herself out there, being vulnerable, allowing people to connect with her. She has she's been included everywhere. She's USA Today, LA Times, Chicago Tribune. It just goes on and on. But the reason I am so excited to have her here is to, again, take what she's doing and understand that there's literally hope. There's hope for people in your family. You're going to hear about the struggles. You're going to hear about the suicides, her famous grandfather. You're going to hear about, more importantly, what she does, which is bring it home. Bring it home to you. Bring it home to me. So, Mariel, welcome. Welcome to the Relaunch Podcast. So great to have you.
Well, oh my gosh, that was the loveliest intro. Seriously, like I might have to
take you. That's the greatest part. It's all you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. As you know, people working on themselves and sharing the work that they do on themselves to help others to expand and grow and become more of themselves it has become, oddly enough, I never thought that would be what was most important in my life, but it's become the most important thing.
Most important part.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear something super crazy that I actually just thought about as I was kind of tuning into this process of talking to you today? And I know we've had some misfires here, but we are here today. And I remember being in the audience. You were speaking at an event called Ladies That Launch. ladies that launch. I think it was in San Francisco. I want to say that that's where I was until about 2 years ago when I moved to Boulder, Colorado. And I remember you specifically, and there was something about, and there were a lot of different people speaking. And I really had not, like, I hadn't really been following you per se, but I heard you speak. And you know how there's just moments in time where you're like, wow, I need to understand more about this person's life. So I find it so ironic now that we're sitting here and we're talking about your life. And I remember that day, and I kept thinking, that woman's not asking the right questions. You're about to answer something, and then she would scooch into something else. And I thought, no, someday I'm going to interview you and we're going to go there. And again, just so excited to have you here. And one of the things that we were talking about earlier, and there's so many different relaunches, so many different times where you've had to, put on the big girl pants and say, you know what, it's not going to put me flat out on my back. It's not going to define me. Can you share with us, out of everything you've done, what do you think is the most impactful relaunch that you've been through to date?
I'm not one of these people that ever has a total aha, that changed the course of my life kind of moment. But because I'm a very slow learner, I think my life has been a process of like, oh, there are kind of all little ahas that lead to a bigger moment of clarity about who. So there one of the a very profound time was, I spent a lot of my youth or my younger years as a woman, as a mother, as a teen, as a person who made movies, searching, always searching. Somebody's gonna give me the solution. Somebody's gonna tell me what's wrong with me, and they're gonna fix me. Somebody else, right? Somebody out there, somebody in the outside.
Totally.
And it wasn't until it was a long process, and this isn't the aha moment in a big way, and yet it'll sound like it was, because it was a catalyst. I went and I met with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and I know that there's a lot of controversy right now about him, and I don't know anything about that, but I do know that my experience with him was really profound. It was 20 years ago. Anyway, to make a very long story short, he came and we were in India. We were meeting with him, and people were asking him, political questions and things. And really, I was just sitting there listening and kind of excited to be in the presence of very spiritual man. And again, I make no judgment or know anything about what's going on now, but I know that, he's a profound man. Anyway, we're about to get up and it's over, and I've been listening to him, and periodically he would look over and smile at me, and I would look back and kind of smile and giggle because I was nervous. And we were about to leave, and he placed his hand on my hand, and he looked me in the eye and he said, "You're okay." And I was like, holy crap, I am okay. Right? It was that moment. I guess that it was the beginning of a relaunch, right? It was a beginning of an understanding that I am okay. And then I realized over several years after that time that I'm okay applies to everybody. Everybody's okay, right? Everybody's not broken. Everybody's not their worst self. They just haven't found the way to get to their best self. It's like working with you and this 3HQ.
Yeah.
doing that, you find what already exists inside you. This is not new. It's not new to your soul, to your unconscious mind. It's just maybe new to your habitual daily life, right? And then you make it habitual, you make it part of your everyday, you make it part of your blood, right? So I realized that part of my mission was to just go out there and say, hey, everybody, it's okay to get help, but you're already okay. You're already beautiful. You're already loved. You already have a great body. You've already got everything you think you're searching for is in you. Now, let's help you find the way to get there. And that's kind of what I feel my journey's been about. I'm always like, how do I get to be a better version of myself? And that's my first book was called Finding My Balance. And that's kind of what I think about every day. I'm always finding my balance. Every day is a journey of, how do I feel?
So when I think about, and as you said, the 3HQ, it's, the head, heart, higher self. And I always look at higher self, that best version of you. And I think of it as you have this wise woman inside of you, and she's trying to talk to you, but we're not letting that we can't hear what she's having to say because we're so tuned out. And, I love it. The Dalai Lama is saying to you, you're okay. And for so many of us, we're searching for somebody to tell us you're okay. But why is it in your mind, in your understanding, why is it so freaking hard to let yourself know that, you know what, you are okay exactly where you are, doing exactly what you're doing?
I think it's hard because we live in a society that demands that we're performing all the time. And I think we are brought up, I don't know about you, but I grew up in a generation that defined themselves by how other people thought of you. I mean, especially I was in the movie industry and modeling, and it was always about what I look like. I didn't approve of myself unless somebody, like hordes of other people, approved of me. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I went, wow, I get me. I actually love me. I couldn't have said that 25 years ago. It couldn't have happened. It was too scary, right? It was too scary to say that. It felt wrong. And I was brought up to believe that was almost like an arrogant way to be. And I was so scared I'd be arrogant, or, whatever it is. I think trauma from our childhood prevents us from allowing ourselves to say, hey, I am okay. And I am the orchestrator of my show, right? I get to guide this ship. And I don't think we're given permission. And I just want to tell everybody, you've all got permission to live your best life, right?
Everybody hear that right now. Dalai Lama doesn't have to say it. Nobody else needs to say it. We just heard it. Mariel says, you are okay. You can live your best life. You can live what you're supposed to. And you said something really interesting about childhood, and we're pretty much, you and I are very similar in our age and what we're trying to do and how we're trying to impact people. And I do think it is truly so valuable that when people hear this idea of like things happen in our childhood, right? You had childhood trauma that happened to you that you have been, sorting through your whole life. I had a very, successful orthopedic surgeon dad who was very much number one love was his profession. And so I was always searching for like, hey, I'm over here. Like, and I'll never forget, he said probably about maybe when I was in my early 20s, he said, wow, you were, and God love my dad. He just says it as he hears it in his own head. He said, you were really an ugly duckling. And now you've kind of turned into this swan. And I'm like, Yeah, thanks. And I remember this because my brother and I just got together and I said, he's kind of commenting about, the non-existent parent and how he's really trying to do the opposite of that and how I really took my kids. And I thought that was really insightful, what I remembered about my childhood and how I was just yearning. I just wanted approval. And I know you had childhood trauma. I know that your mom ended up getting very ill, and you said in interviews, and I did, I watched that Running from Crazy, and how you said, you spent most of those formative years as a caregiver. So what are you like when you think about that time? And you also said in the in that wonderful documentary, you talk about that you even looked at your kids outside playing and you were almost jealous of that free spirit that they had. Help us understand how you have been able to deal with some of those traumas that are very impactful, and it still allowed yourself to have relaunches and have generational relaunches with your kids.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. That was a turning point. That was probably a big turning point in my life, is that I think not so much when I was seeing it, but when I realized that that's how I'd felt, right? Feeling jealous of your toddlers or your 3 or 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old kids who are out there giggling and playing. And I didn't know how to do that. I hadn't done that as a kid really that often, because I felt, and this is not, oh, poor Mariel. None of that. This was my family. I loved them. So I decided that I was going to fix them at 7 years old. I made this choice. I'm going to be the fixer. I'll clean up messes of drunken nights and broken glass and blood on the walls. I'll fix it. I'll clean it up. And then we have a chance to be better, healthier, and happier. But what it did is, and I'm sure there's so many of your people in your tribe who will relate to this. It's that thing where your childhood kind of gets stopped in a way. You become an adult far too soon. And I just had a grandchild like literally a month ago.
Congratulations.
I know, it's super cool. And I think about how, and I keep sending my daughter things about just play, just have fun, like I want her to know, she knows that there were times in her childhood where I was trying to organize things and make things right and perfect and this and that and the food. And, when I had 2 daughters, each one got 4 grapes and, so there was no, but it was like, I wasn't, when it came down to like go outside and just hang out and play on the swing, I was looking at my watch, wondering like, how much longer is this? Not because I didn't love them and because I didn't enjoy their joy. I didn't know how to partake in that. I didn't know how to participate. It was so sad. So cut to, I have a wonderful life partner, Bobby, and we've been together now like 14 years. And I remember when when we were first going, I think we'd been going out maybe 3 months. And one day he's like, let's play hide and seek. And I was like, huh?
That's so great.
And I also have to say that he was naked at the time. I was, first of all, insanely embarrassed. I was like, I think my entire body went like red, and he was like, yeah, we're gonna play hide and seek. I was like, like it just felt like I had no control over how I was going to look in awkward positions. Like it was just all
good for him.
He was amazing.
I mean, that is.
He goes, oh yeah, you can. So off he went and he hid, right? And I'm trying to fun. I'm like, like I'm embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God, this is great.
Oh God, that's so good.
He literally taught me how to play. And now we play red light, green light. we do things on the beach. We laugh every day. We have a belly laugh that is so, you'd think that we were certainly not 60 years old, right? I'm 61. You would not think that. We laugh all the time. We're always, if we go to a restaurant, the proprietors will often come over and go, can you keep it down? And we'll get together, just the two of us. And like, we're playing games. It's crazy. But that play that I didn't, in other words, that saying you're never too old to relive your childhood or whatever it is, it's true. This is just a choice. We just decided we're adults. We just decided that we're getting towards senior citizenship. Well, I don't even know what that means. But like, that's not going to happen in our lives. I mean, when we're 105, it's just never going to happen because we've made the choice that life is all about, you never stop growing. So getting back to your original question about relaunch, I honestly feel like this is the beginning of my life. Our lives are so rich.
I just got chills for you. It's so good because too many people are so serious that they can't laugh at themselves. They can't laugh in situations. I mean, when I start working with people, and I can very quickly give them like a 1 to 10 on the serious meter. Right? That 10 is like, whoa. And the first thing I ask them to do, I'll be like, okay, belly laugh. When was the last time you actually had a belly laugh? And people, I go from there and they're like, well, I haven't really had a belly laugh in a while. I'll be like, all right, when was the last time you just laughed? Yeah. I'm like, all right, we need to start back at the basics. Like, let's just go back in time. And I really like the idea of, you said Bobby. Bobby brings that out. My husband, E, he does the same for me. When my mom passed, I felt like my other half, my laughing, my joy, the fun element, we had more belly laughs together than I've had with anyone else ever. And so I said to my husband, I said, you don't enjoy life as much as my mom. And he said, oh, really? Is that a challenge? Because I'm going to take you there. And since then, I mean, it's been like, you challenge someone to enjoy life more. You challenge them like, where's your belly laugh? Like, Matthew McConaughey says you got to exercise every single day, right? You got to have a sweat. I say you got to have a laugh. You gotta laugh. It's the best therapy. And I know you're all about mental wellness. And God, how important do you think that is? And why do you think we've become so freaking serious?
Well, we do live in a world that wants you to believe that it's all like, tomorrow it's all going to be over and, this and that, and, like cover yourself up because God knows what's happening. And for me, it's just like, no, I'm not going to, and that's not saying it's not political. It's not a belief. It's just like, I refuse to allow the outside society or maybe it's even corporate society to determine how I'm going to lead my life. And for me, leading my life is just, it is about, laughter every day. I mean, I believe Matthew McConaughey, I think you do have to exercise every day, but why shouldn't you move and laugh while you're doing it too? Like, why shouldn't it all kind of work in harmony? Our food works with our movement, our, water, watching the sunrise, but laughter is kind of an underlying, gosh, it almost should be like drinking water and like eating good food. It should be one of those things that are required for your good health. It's like
I had a retreat once and I said, we're going to do literally what some call laugh therapy. I said, I'm going to point to this gal. I said, you're going to start, you're going to laugh. She's like, oh, no. I'll go. Can I go like fifth? I'm like, no, you can't. You have to go first. And I said, and you don't stop laughing until literally I had this thing in my hand until I put it down. And then you're going to look at somebody and then that person's going to laugh. And then the next, I am telling you, you've never seen so many women like and people are like, I can't keep laughing this way because, I'm too old for this right now. I've had kids. I'm like, we just started laughing at the silliest things. And it was such like afterwards, people are like, I've never felt so freeing. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's, fine.
When you look at a child, it's the same thing. It's that freedom. Right. Mm-hmm. I saw a Thich Nhat Hanh quote yesterday, and it's like, you should love someone so much that they feel free from your love, right? It's their love frees you.
Right.
You should feel freedom. And
that's so good.
I just really ruined that quote, but
but the point is that, we talk about this and it's like, find what makes you smile and laugh. Like, God, maybe that's the full, like finding your purpose in life, finding your passion. My God.
And I think that that's what happens when you're doing what you love. Laughter comes very easily. Smiles come very easy. Joy bubbles up because you're actually in that place where you're supposed to be. And joy and laughter and fun and play, all of that is really in tune with how we're meant to be. I really believe we come onto the planet. I mean, seeing this granddaughter and the purity and the innocence and the freedom of this being who is yet to be influenced by society, told she can't do this or that or the other thing. We all came in the same way, right? We came in
totally
pure and full of love and no expectation of anything but to be loved in return, right? We love in return. And I think if our intention is to get back to the purest place in ourselves, oh my gosh. I mean, that's it. That is healing in itself. That's powerful too.
It's so powerful.
When you're there, what can't you do? If you're feeling joy about something, it's not like, oh, you feel fear and serious about it. Because when you're serious, it's like things get hard. When you're joyful, things are softer. And so the fluidity of that moves into your ability to do things. You ask you to do something that you might not have thought of, but if you're feeling joy, you go, yeah, I'll give that a try. It doesn't seem, because you're not in that holding place, that fearful place, that place of, well, I don't want to do, whatever nonsense we tell ourselves. I've had some, voices in the back of my head that were not kind. Over the years. Well,
and when we think about in your story with, I think you describe it as, there's 7 suicides in your past, and you had a very famous grandfather, Ernest Hemingway, and he took his life a few months before you were born. And yet you have been able to rewrite your childhood, right? You've been able to go back and explain how you have done that. How have you come to terms? I've had a couple suicides in our life. We've had massively like crazy. I mean, even like train crash, plane crash, elevator crash. Like people are just like, I'm like, I know I'm like queen of the relaunches, but enough is enough. Like, come on, we got to time out here. But what about you? What has allowed you to go back now? As you said, your early 60s, and you're trying to create your childhood again as an adult woman and be able to reconcile what happened. How have you been able to do that?
Well, I think that it's through not doing it for so many years and seeing the contrast of that, right? For so many years, I was so afraid I would end up like my family. Like, oh my gosh, this must be like a virus. I wonder when I'll catch it. One day I'm going to wake up and I'm crazy and my kids won't know who I am because I'm acting like whatever
right
in the background, whatever fear that I had. I mean, there were 7 suicides in my family. My not only my grandfather, but his father, my grandmother's father, a great uncle, a great aunt, an uncle, and my own sister, right? So all these suicides, all this mental illness. So I kept thinking, oh man, I got to be careful. I live in a minefield, and I've got to just walk gently and carefully.
Well, and your family was so famous that you were almost saying it's like the Kennedy curse, like, no, who's next? Like that whole weighing so heavy on you.
Well, what I did is I dug into what my history and my story was. Like, where do I come from? It's why I did the documentary. Ernest Hemingway, this person, that person, my sister, all these people. Yeah. And I started to see the links to alcohol, right? Alcoholism, that people drank too much. They did drugs. They did things because they were trying to get out of pain. I completely understand that. And then I realized, well, wait a second. I don't do any of that. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. Like Bobby says, I drink coffee and that's really horrible. I said, dude, I do one thing. And it's organic.
Give me a break. Can I just do one? All right. Yes. Hey, you're okay.
Yes, exactly. Here's the good news. He can say that's bad. And I'm like, whatever. I also know how I work. I know the food that I eat that creates balance. I mean, every aspect of my life is designed to keep me in a place where, because I've suffered depression. I know what it's like to be in the dark night of the soul. I know what that feels like. And not everybody's going to have my solution, but I know what my solution is, right? And I want everybody to find their solution, but it's up to you. And the first part of that journey is taking responsibility for it, taking responsibility for your own life and everything that has gone wacko in your life. You probably have something that you need to take responsibility for in making it so, right? Things don't happen to you. They happen because somehow in an unconscious part of your brain, it was allowed. And that's not a shaming. That's just the way that we are as human beings. We do things to survive, but sometimes those survival skills are, we victimize ourselves, we become martyr, whatever it is. I'm obviously talking about myself, but
totally get that. Let me ask you this question. If you were me right now and I was trying to get at where do you feel like you've been misunderstood? What would be the question that I would be asking you?
That's so funny that you say that because I am sure I'm highly misunderstood at some level. I don't know, but there was a time in my life where being misunderstood I would have been obsessed with that. I would have been frightened of it, obsessed. I wanted everybody to like me. I'm not saying that I'm not kind of, I don't still want people to, I think every human wants to be liked, but I less worry about that. So I don't really care if I'm misunderstood. At some level, I'm like, look, I'm 61. If you don't understand me, then you don't have to spend time with me. My life's intention is to be really good at what I do and have it benefit the world, but not from an I don't think from an egotistical place unless I'm fooling myself. I really do believe that part of my mission is just to help people to know that they're okay, right? And that they're fine and that they have every ability to be in balance, to be in joy the way that I am. Because there was a time in my life that I never thought that was for me, right? And that wasn't me feeling sorry for myself. I actually thought that people were lying to you that were happy. I was like, yeah, whatever. People aren't that happy. They're not.
Well, I heard you say that one of the greatest things that ever happened was the night or day before your mom passed. she said, "You're a really good mom."
That was
Really super impactful.
yeah, it was.
Validation.
Yeah, it was because, my oldest daughter, who just had a baby, 35. So it was 35 years ago that, my daughter was 8 months old, and my mother was a tough cookie. She was not an easy, I loved her to the moon and back. And she was not easy, and she was very hard to please, and she was grumpy most of the time. She suffered so much of her life. She had cancer and all that stuff. And her story is what it is. And she wasn't of a generation that's going to look into their stuff and figure it out and kind of come to terms with it. But she did say that before she died. And there's something about death and rebirth. It was that kind of exchange. And it was very interesting because my daughter, went right after she died, for every morning, at the very time that my mother had passed, she would wake up and she would cry for a little bit. It was exactly the same time for like 10 days. And it was like my mother kind of saying that she was there, and, I don't know, maybe, whatever. But there's been this amazing understanding, and it's a forgiveness that happens in you. My mother did her best. My father did his best. They didn't have the tools that we have. We are so fortunate to live in the time that we do. Yes, it's crazy. Yes, there's a lot of crap, but there's also people like you helping people to get to their best selves. There's so many great things out there. We have the opportunity to really expand into this new world we're coming into. And God only knows what that's going to look like. I mean, my gosh.
So true.
Got on the Zoom with you today.
Well, listen, I know that, this has gone so fast, and there are probably 24 more questions. 24, do you like I said 24? 24 more questions on my list. But at this point, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here on the Relaunch podcast. And as we're wrapping it up, what words of advice, as a woman sitting out there listening right now, would you share to get them with their own relaunches? And many are having very, very significant ones. What would you say to them?
Don't lose faith in yourself, and know that the messages that your intuition are giving you are really right on for you, right? And really trust that your voice knows what's right for you. I would say that.
Oh, no doubt. Your voice knows what's right for you. So good. Thank you again. It was so wonderful having you here. Where can people find out more, follow you? What's going on with you right now?
Well, my goodness. I had pretty much newly launched a podcast of my own called Out Comes the Sun podcast, which is like the name of my book, which is Out Came the Sun. That's wonderful. We're also on radio stations. We're kind of being syndicated on radio stations around the world, which is super exciting. That's my dream. It's my dream coming true. You can also see me on, at Mariel Hemmingway, Instagram, Mariel Hemmingway official fan page. And also I have a foundation for mental health called the Mariel Hemmingway Foundation.org. And if you have any interest in helping me create a resource navigator so that people can find the help that they need, whether it's holistic or psychiatric or, medicinal, whatever it is, I want to be able to direct people around this country to the right facilities. It's not about me. It's about me helping you to find what you need.
So powerful. Thank you again. And for everyone listening out there, if you're finding what we're talking about, it's resonating, you want to hear more of Relaunch Journeys, make sure that you subscribe. And also, if you're trying to figure out where are you operating from, in that 3HQ model, the head, the heart, the higher self, head on over to therelaunch.com. Take the quiz. It's a great starting point. Are you listening to the voices inside that are trying to guide you, that are trying to help you in this journey? So again, we look forward to the next time we're all together. Again, Mariel, you're okay. This is so awesome. Thank you again for being here, and we'll see everyone again next time. If you like this video and want to get more like it, head over here.